Oh, well, let's talk about something that's not necessarily something to cheer about, and that's President Trump's new tariffs going into effect today. Lumber, furniture, other wood products potentially adding more cost to surging home building and renovation projects.
You know what's interesting is we talked about this previously. So today's the day that the kitchen cabinet tariff goes into effect. So
I never understood that one.
it's 25%. So this is the one where IKEA was like, this might hurt us, but 25% right now. And if there's not some other deal made, it'll rise to 50% tariffs by January 1st. So finish your renovations.
Yeah, seriously. Here's more on the housing impact from Chief Business Correspondent Rebecca Jarvis.
To build a house because of these tariffs, we've already seen prices up about $8,000, and this additional tariff taking effect adds $1,000. If you're buying on the higher end, that has a smaller impact, but it also encourages some of these home builders, instead of building some of the less expensive homes, which are so desperately needed, first-time home buyers really struggling with affordability right now, it encourages building on the higher end, which doesn't necessarily create the types of homes that we really need more of in this country.
So what we're talking about is 10 to 50% on foreign wood products and furniture. Those came into effect just after midnight tonight. Last night. They meant to encourage more domestic logging and furniture manufacturing. I mean, these things are so defined. Like let's put a tariff on upholstered furniture. You think,
Right.
what? Who's decided to do that? But it's designed to impact and to target certain countries that are, importing things to the United States, and I can understand that wanting to sort of balance the trade deficit.
But part of the issue, of course, and we've talked about this multiple times with the tariffs, is you have to have some ramp up time to be able to make up the difference, right? So even in the timber industry, do we have enough wood ready to be logged? Maybe we do. Do we have enough manufacturing facilities? Can we log them? Do we have enough machinery to log them? If you're saying we're not going to import anymore, we're going to do homegrown timber and lumber, where are we going to get those? Like, we have a certain level already, but to ramp it up that much, that becomes difficult, I think.
And I know that when we imposed the tariffs on pharmaceuticals a couple of weeks ago, there was a little bit of leeway to companies who were in the process of setting up manufacturing facilities here in the United States, who were setting up research facilities here. There was some leeway in terms of, hey, wait a minute, if you're going to start, producing some of these pharmaceuticals, we'll give you a break, or we'll at least give you a stay. And I don't know whether that's going to apply with this as well.
Here's an interesting thing to note, right? So we know that there have already been other tariffs placed on other countries in different ways, but the second largest producer of softwood lumber is Canada. And it's a major U.S. supplier, but they already have tariffs imposed on them by President Trump. And so the 10% on the softwood lumber is in addition to, I guess, the more general tariffs. And so now you're looking at 45% tariffs on lumber coming from Canada.
Yeah, and the president's indicated, or at least hinted, that he might levy 100% of all products from China beginning November 1st. And, of course, that just goes back and forth, and China will put 100% tariffs on us. And I mean, these tariffs, I don't know, we need to put an end to it. The Supreme Court, or at least one of our courts of appeals, has sort of pulled back on some of Trump's tariffs policy. I don't know when we end up getting to the United States Supreme Court, whether they'll support that, but some of his tariffs may be checked a little more in the future.
Yeah, that's interesting. But, we're already starting to see the local impacts of tariffs. There is a Murray guitar store that is beloved by the community, and they say that they're going to have to close because of the economy, the lack of sales, and tariffs.
Yeah, KSL NewsRadio's Mariah Maines has more.
Guitar Czar isn't the only music store that's been hit hard by President Trump's recent tariffs, but they're the latest to close. Colin Campbell at Riverton Music says a lot of instrument prices have gone up, specifically those designed for beginner musicians.
Tariffs is a pretty big challenge for the music industry. Orchestra, especially orchestra instruments, violins, violas, cellos, the large majority of them are made in China. I don't think there's a place in the United States we can get student instruments.
Guitar Czar didn't respond to a request for comment, but on Instagram, they wrote that they've loved helping Utah's musicians. Mariah Maines, KSL News Radio.
So that's a business, Holly, that's going to close as a result of the tariffs. I mean, that's heartbreaking.
Yeah, and so these are hitting home, right? So we know that does sometimes take a while to trickle down, but I think these increased costs are starting to trickle down, and we're starting to see that.
Did you ever have a kid who played in the band or in
No.
orchestra? See, I did every year, and I think my parents would have just paid the extra. You know what I mean? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, but not everyone can do that. I understand. It's just hard to imagine the guitars are being a big store, and Riverton Music, other places who are like, hey, wait a minute, we're in trouble. And you don't realize until it hits you close to home that guitars, something as
Right.
innocuous as guitars are going up. Other instruments because they're made in China.
Right. Well, that little soundbite said those student instruments. So for the band and for the music classes at school, that those come almost exclusively from China, and that the person in the interview didn't even know if there was a place in the United States where they could get them. So not only is there a cost issue, but there's even an availability issue. So I live down in Utah County, and American Fork High School has been the high school that most of my kids have gone to. They have the American Fork Marching Band that is very popular and very good. They've gone to the Rose Bowl a couple of times.
Yes.
They're really good. They win awards almost every year, it feels like. And I just imagining the trickle down effects as you start to get down there. This is one of the activities that school children can be involved in without breaking the bank. But if you're going to start imposing heavy tariffs, or you're now forcing businesses out of business, that it has an impact.
Yeah, and a 100% tariff, Holly, means that the price of the product doubles.
Yep.
So if you're buying musical instruments or something from Canada and you're paying double, obviously you've got to pass that on. And so all of a sudden your $200 guitar is a $400 guitar,
Right.
and maybe that prices a lot of people out of it. And
Right.
and what was interesting was that it was for beginner musicians. In other words, sort of the low end
Right,
models,
the low-end models.
the ones where people
Right.
are really trying to decide if they want to jump into it.
Right.
If you're a beginner musician wanting to play the clarinet, do you really want to invest a double what you would have a year ago to see if you even like playing it? You know what I mean? That's a hard thing to wrap your head around.
Right. So professional musicians, I'm sure, are used to high prices and custom-made instruments, but that's not what we're talking about really here. It really is those ones for the beginners who are just getting into it. But it's sad. We've got local businesses that are feeling these impacts. We've got you personally are going to feel the impacts potentially about these kitchen cabinets
I know.
as you're renovating
We're
your
renovating our place
your
down
place
in
in
southern
Torrey.
Utah. Luckily, we went and good news, bad news. We went into one of the furniture stores out south a couple of weeks ago to get all the stuff up front. It's just that we went on the record rainiest
course.
day of the
Of
so
course
everything
you
we
did.
bought is soaking wet,
Oh,
and it was
gosh.
in an open trailer.
Oh, gosh.
with one of those little plastic covers that blows
Oh,
off after
yeah.
about 10 miles.
Oh,
Anyway,
that's too bad.
yeah.